everyone. Welcome to our webinar today. My name is Caitlin Coleman. I'm with Synerzip. I'd like to introduce our moderator today, Pankaj Jain, VP of Software Services at Synerzip. Pankaj, over to you.
Thanks, Caitlin. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. As Caitlin mentioned, the webinar is being recorded, and you will get the links in a day or two. So with that covered, the logistics covered, I do encourage you throughout the webinar, do enter your questions in our chat box, in the webinar chat box, and I'll try to get to all of them during the presentation. With that covered, let me introduce our speaker for today. It is my great pleasure to introduce our speaker, Rajiv Kaushik. Rajiv is a Senior Director of Product Management at FIS Global. Rajiv has great experience in product development, product management, and program management. Talking to Rajiv over the last few months, I can clearly say he's really passionate about the API and the product manager part. So I think it will be an interesting presentation today. So with that said, over to you, Rajiv.
Thank you, Pankaj. Thank you, Caitlin and Joe. So let's dive right in. I am talking about API as product. What is API as product? APIs have existed for the longest time, right? For decades. And APIs have always been perceived as technical artifacts that, you have a product out there, you have APIs that you publish out to your clients. Your clients can then use APIs to tap into functionality that the overall product offers, right? So APIs have always been thought of as those technical sort of interfaces to provide integration for your clients, for your products that you offer in the market. What has happened lately over the last, I would say, 4 to 5 years is that APIs have taken a life of their own, above and beyond and independent of the product that they reflect functionality for. And there are many providers, there are many vendors, companies that offer API as a product. So let's take the example of Twilio. You can use Twilio API integrated within your own product or within your own application to entirely exercise SMS functionality or video, conferencing functionality into your product. In the financial services industry that I work in with FIS, we look at Stripe as one of the examples. Stripe has a set of APIs. We call them a headless product because their APIs are their product. That if you are coming up with a product that includes payments functionality, then you use Stripe's APIs to enable and bring those payments capabilities to your product, right? And so API as product becomes a very pivotal sort of milestone in this journey because you're using the API, you're selling the APIs to your clients, you're monetizing those APIs to your clients are perceiving functionality, your product functionality directly through the APIs, and in effect, your API becomes your product, therefore API as product. What are the different aspects as a product manager? What are the different aspects that you need to be mindful of as you productize your APIs? I've got some key aspects here, not all, and I'll hit upon and go into a little bit of detail into some of these, not all. When we think about APIs as products, just like any other product, we would start off by thinking about the market segment, the segments that we're targeting. Who is what are our client base going to look like? What are the product strategies we're going to adopt in putting our APIs out in front of those market segments, in front of our clients? What are the standards we're going to follow, whether they're global standards, whether they're regional standards, or your local, your company standards. What are those standards that we have to keep in mind? How are we going to get these APIs to the market as a product? Therefore, the go-to-market, the GTM activities that are involved in making sure that support implementation is in place, pricing is in place, and you have marketing campaigns, and you have all of the legal stuff in place prior to going to market. Another important aspect is what we call developer experience. Now, developer experience is not just about how the developers experience your APIs, it's about how the product managers, how your client business folks who look at your API, how they look at your APIs as more than just technical artifacts. As an example, you're not just putting APIs out there in the market. Have you identified common use cases? Have you documented those use cases and said, these are the use cases and this is how the APIs are consumed for the use cases? Another key aspect that I actually put a lot of stress on within my group at FIS is the need for roadmaps. We have clients who are heavily vested in us, and it's important for them to have a roadmap of our API, of our products, to know where is our product going, what are the APIs they expect to see in the evolution of the product roadmap. So these are just some of the key aspects I'm going to touch upon in my presentation here. There are other aspects. Security obviously is such an important aspect, but I'm not going to go into security. It is important. I don't want to belittle the importance of security. That frankly needs a session or two of its own.
So Rajiv, if I may interrupt quick, Brian asking a good question, so I thought I'll bring it up here.
Yeah.
You did talk about APIs and their thing, but the Brian is asking, in a company, how does the API product manager role comes about in the first place? Is the company and the vision decides first, okay, we're going to do something and then hire the product manager, or existing company, they have no idea and then you hire? So which one comes first, right? Means like, where does this whole API as a product concept originates? Like,
I would say it really depends on the company and the vision and the leadership. I'll give you the example of my own company at FIS, where our executive leadership team identified APIs as a key strategic pillar of the company, of the 100+ products that we have out there in the market. And we said, in order to make that happen, we really need to start our API journey by starting off with by hiring at least one API product manager or API evangelist within the company who is going to help launch the practice, who is going to help set up the practice. So in that sense, that was a top-down sort of a strategic mandate, and we started our journey there. I've talked to many other companies, actually I would say a majority, who have just gotten into the API business, have realized that APIs are more than just technical artifacts, and realized that they need to now create a practice around API as a product. They took a portion of an existing product manager, appointed him or her as the API product manager, and then grew from that point on to one product manager, to 3 to 4, to a group of API product managers. So I would say it really depends on the nature, the leadership, the vision of the company that you reside in.
Makes sense. Okay. Hope Brian answered the questions. Okay, go on.
There are additional aspects to productization that includes partner network, and I emphasize partner network a lot because in order for your product to take legs, you need for other product companies, for your vendor partners to pick up your APIs, to integrate your APIs into their core products, therefore widening the ecosystem of your product, increasing the footprint of consumption of your product, right? So having a solid partner network, maintaining those relationships, fostering those relationships, taking care and feeding those relationships is extremely important for any partner program whether it's in APIs or any other sort of practice that we talk about. And as expected, professional services is another key aspect we need to pay attention to. We need to also make sure that as a company, if you have multiple products with multiple business units and verticals, that you are helping educate the other verticals, the other product lines about APIs that one vertical is putting out. So enabling others to be able to talk to your product and your APIs, because in the end, if you have a client who has 3 different products across 3 different verticals within your company, you want each one of your sales folks and your product managers and account managers to be able to talk about all 3 products to your clients versus saying, oh, let me get back to you on that, right? So enabling your sales, your account managers, and your product managers to talk holistically across the company. So API is a product manager. API product manager leads the API as a product journey, right? It takes care of all these aspects that I just touched upon, liaises and interfaces between the producers of the APIs. Those producers of the APIs are the developers within your company, they're product managers within your company, they are technical writers within your company, they are marketing folks within your company. They're all involved in the API production practice, the life cycle within your company. And that product manager juggles all these balls and interfaces with the consumers of the APIs. And I'd like for you to think about consumers of your APIs, not just as your clients, as your external clients, but also your internal clients, your other verticals within your company who ought to be using your APIs for integration, for making your multiple products hang together as one to a client who has multiple products with you. Right? So think about consumers being internal as well as external consumers. So at this point, I'd like to put out a quick poll, and Caitlin, you're going to help me with this. The question here is, does your organization have one or more API product managers? As we run the poll, I'm going to give it about 15 seconds. I've talked to a lot of companies out there. Ran this poll a few times, and every time I run this poll, the numbers creep up. The number of yeses creep up. That I started from about 30 to 40% of the organization saying yes, they've been thinking about API product managers, about API as a practice, to now a majority, I would say 50+%, really perceiving that and investing their capital in API as a product practice. Caitlin,
our poll just finished. I think it was about our audience today, I think had 25% yes. So they are thinking about it. So one of the questions that came up while you were talking and the poll was happening is, can you explain this API product manager? Where does it fit in the overall organization hierarchy? I know different organizations operate different way, but is there a centralized version where it reports to chief product officer, or is it like each business unit have API manager? Can you kind of what you have seen in talking to different companies?
Actually, that's a really, really good question. And once again, there's no one standard answer to this because it really depends on where you are in your API journey. What I will say for sure is please do not put your API product manager within your technical or your development part of the organization, with your with your development shop. Your API product manager needs to have legs in multiple organizations and multiple groups. The technical ones, the product ones, which are with your chief product officer, as well as with your business, because ultimately your API as a practice is not going to scale up, it's not going to succeed unless you have the buy-in of your product officer, your chief product officer, with that being a core part of your product strategy, as well as the business folks whose buy-in you need in order to sell APIs as part of the product offering when they're putting the products out to the clients, right? So there's that trifecta of roles and responsibilities that an API product manager has. What I've seen in terms of organizational location of the API product manager, it typically starts off within a business unit as a API product manager for a particular product or for a particular line of business. Then, as the centralized product organization latches on and your API API strategy now becomes integral part of your API product strategy for the company, at that point, the transition may happen where your API product manager may now report up directly into the chief product officer, but still has dotted lines back into the business and has direct influence and works very closely with your the development part of your organization.
Okay.
Hopefully that answered that question. Okay, so as product managers, we think about our target market, and this is a sample from FIS where this is the way we look at our target market for APIs within the financial services business, especially within banking and payments. We see our largest being the financial institutions, the integrators who work with the financial institutions to integrate best of breed solutions for the financial institutions. We see the fintechs as the disruptors, as well as the what I call co-opetition, the cooperative partners who work with us to enable more products that tap into the FIS product APIs, thereby increasing the ecosystem and the consumption and the adoption of our APIs. So fintechs to us are a very strategic go forward market segment. Merchants who may directly consume APIs, as an example, Amazon does, Apple does. And then internal, like I said earlier, if you are a large company, please take good care and feed for your internal silos within the company, because they will be one of your biggest adopters and will really help get your product and your API footprint out there and help the cross-sell of different products within your company, right? So the question then becomes is, who's looking for what sort of functionality from your APIs? And I'm not gonna go through this entire grid. My point here was that it's important for you to have this sort of a viewpoint, this sort of a grid where you know surgically who's looking for what and where are your priorities. Right? So as an example right now, I can tell you in this particular fiscal year, my team's priorities are focused on making sure that we provide the entire range of a functionality to the financial institutions, right? From accessing their own data to accessing derived data based on artificial intelligence, machine learning, so on providing an API marketplace to our financial institution clients, so they can discover other products that they can integrate with and assemble a best of breed ecosystem. We're also hyper-focused on fintechs because we realize that our growth strategy hinges on the fintechs leveraging our APIs, bringing more adoption to our products, thereby increasing our revenue, and also helping our clients innovate and provide better digital experiences to our clients. Right? So you need to know at any given point in time in this market sort of a matrix, where are your priorities? I'll pause there to see, Pankaj, if there are any questions that came up.
Not right now. You can continue. I will definitely ask as the questions are coming.
Awesome. So then the question really becomes to the client is, what is the value the clients are deriving from APIs? What is the value that you as a API provider, as a product company, are able to provide to your clients? Not only are you able to get to market faster with APIs, because you now don't have to wait for the entire UI for your product to be put out to the market, but you can put APIs out in the market that expose functionality even before that functionality is available through the UI. So you get to market much faster with an API first sort of a strategy. You also create new channels for your APIs or for your products, because now the API becomes another virtual channel for the consumption of your product functionality, right? That's a very sort of a transformational sort of thinking that I want you to, really think about and say, how can I deliver functionality to my clients above and beyond what's in the APIs, much faster, above and beyond what's delivered through the UIs, much faster and sooner than delivered through the UI.
So,
all of this will lead to greater adoption.
Yeah, so Samir, this is a right. Samir is asking this question right on this slide is basically there are two thought process, right? I think the way he asked the question is, can an organization succeed by just pushing the APIs, like developers pushing the API without the role product manager role, API product manager role?
No.
Okay.
No. So ultimately, remember, this is a journey from API as a technical artifact to a product. You need to price your APIs. You need to make sure support and implementation groups are in place. You need to have marketing around the product. You need to have a strategy. All of those things around commercialization of the APIs are critical to putting your APIs out in the market. And unless you have those in place, your APIs remain as technical artifacts, as companions to your underlying product.
Sounds good. Makes sense.
Right? In the end, the value you deliver to your clients is that they're going to be able to innovate faster. They're going to be able to assemble a best-of-breed ecosystem of products to cater to the digital experience of their own customers. Because they're able to, like Lego blocks, they're able to take your product APIs, Twilio product APIs, Salesforce product APIs, assemble all of those together, and put all of that into a customer-facing experience, digital experience, whether it's on the mobile or whether it's at your traditional brick and mortar, service offering.
Sounds good. Great.
So when we think of different product strategies around APIs, the most fundamental and foundational are vertical APIs. You've got a product, you expose APIs, you may monetize those APIs, you likely will not, because the APIs are simply providing the same functionality that your product UI already offers, right? So these are really vertical APIs, or really companion APIs. A significant bit of value, but not a whole lot more value added, right? Where you start adding value is where you have APIs that cut across multiple products. Because now what you do is you increase the cross-sell of your products by saying that, hey, if you are on product 1, product 2, and product 3, we have APIs that will seamlessly bring you functionality across those 3 products, right? Becomes a significant competitive advantage in the sales process and in the servicing arena. Then you truly get to value-added APIs when you start deriving intelligence, when you start deriving information, data, dashboards that drive cross-sell, upsell for your clients, for your customers, right? Those sorts of value adds are the true value that APIs can provide. And it's important to think about APIs as a journey in which you say, when am I going to reach that milestone where APIs are more than just companion APIs, where they're providing a significant bit more value to our clients?
Rajiv, Chetan is asking a question on this slide is, can you just kind of walk our audience through an example of, like, in your, let's say in FIS global, in the banking, like what's the vertical, what's the horizontal? Can you walk the audience through an example?
Absolutely. And like you said, I'll use my own example of my own business, the FIS business that FIS is in. When you as a customer walk into a bank or you interact with your bank, let's say Bank of America, and you are, let's say, depositing funds into your checking account, that the APIs that cater to that functionality are vertical APIs focused on deposits. The moment you start moving money between you and another customer, let's say Bank of America or at a different bank, you're now going to horizontal APIs that move money either as bill pay transactions or as peer-to-peer Zelle or whatever the mechanism is, transactions across different products, across bill pay and deposit, and into your, let's say, a prepaid account that you may have with a merchant, let's say Uber, right? So horizontal APIs are those sorts of APIs that enable those cross-product use cases. Value-added APIs in FIS, our example is we provide intelligence to our banking clients, by which we say, these certain high net worth clients whose balance in their checking and saving account has been this much are very good candidates for a brokerage account, or very good candidates for investment strategies, or wealth product. And so that's the sort of value add that our APIs can provide to our clients, so they can use that information to then drive cross-sell, upsell, right? Event notifications. Your balance just dropped below $2,000, right? Those, to me, those event notifications are value added.
Sure. Sounds good. Thank you.
API as product is the culmination of the journey. Like I talked about the example of Stripe earlier, Twilio. The APIs are products, and APIs become the centerpiece of your product offering. So then I step into what is probably one of my two most favorite topics, which is pricing. And I can spend a couple of hours just talking about pricing as to what goes into pricing and as to how you monetize your APIs. But bottom line, if your APIs are going to drive revenue, incremental or significant revenue growth, you need to consider different pricing models for your APIs. And in order to educate yourself about how you price and monetize your APIs, it's important that you go talk to your sales folks. You talk to product managers across your company for various products, not just your own product. You talk to clients and say, clients, what sort of value are you looking for from APIs? And how much are you willing to pay for that value that we deliver to you from those APIs, right? What I can tell you in talking to hundreds of clients is that clients want simplicity. They don't want complicated pricing plans and models. They want pricing to be predictable. They want to know that, okay, if I open 100,000 new accounts this month, how much am I going to pay when it comes to API pricing? Clients want your APIs to be competitive, because if your APIs are competitive or better than your competitors, they're able to translate that competitive advantage to their own competitive advantage with their customers. Clients who are starting their API journey, they want to start off, a lot of them want to start off small. They want low barriers. They can spend $300 to $400 a month, dip their toes in the water, start using APIs, learn by doing, and then ramp up to one of the more tiered and more enterprise sort of pricing plans. And in that process, scale up their API consumption, their API practice, in effect.
Angela is asking a question. Maybe it's coming in upcoming slides, but she's asking is like in the pricing thing when you are thinking, she has heard about there are different maturity models in API, like level 1 and level 2.
Yes, I will actually get to that. So
Okay,
definitely.
sounds good. So Angela, just wait till Rajiv gets to that slide. Okay.
Absolutely. Yes, that's a very good question, in fact.
Okay.
So I wanted to spend a little bit of time on pricing today, but let me just give you sort of my radar on pricing. These are the different considerations that we have some extensive research and discussions and analysis on. Factors or drivers behind pricing our APIs. In some cases, we want to derive as much of a profit margin as possible. In some other cases, it may not be about profit. It may be about increasing market penetration. So how do we price our APIs in order to increase our penetration into the market, so APIs become sort of a gateway drug to our clients. So then once our clients start adopting our APIs, now they see 5 other products from the same company, from our company, and now they're willing to consider buying five other products, right? Leading to cross-sell. And in that process, you increase stickiness of your clients, because now they're literally married to you. They're stuck to you with the incredible value that you're providing to them through APIs, right? So that leads to retention. It's important to consider the retention driving factors, the retention drivers as API pricing factors. You may actually be behind the curve when it comes to APIs, behind your competition. So there may be competitive factors for a particular product, right? The one other one that we normally always take into consideration is transformative value. By providing APIs, are we helping our clients transform their business process, help them achieve not just savings, but help our clients and our customers grow? Is that sort of a transformation that our APIs are enabling, right? It's important to think about that, to talk to our clients about that, to look at the competition, to say, what is the competition doing that's driving that level of transformation, and price accordingly. So this is sort of that matrix, that radar that you have to look at when pricing your APIs. Don't just go in and say, we're going to charge 1 cent an API call. You may end up undercharging or overcharging your clients.
Ken is asking, in the pricing thing, do the organization or the product manager price in the efficiency, internal efficiency that organization is reaching? I would think that's the question. Like, because of this API thing, your clients may not be calling your tech support or customer support as much. They are like self things. So is the internal efficiencies and cost saving go into the pricing discussion?
Absolutely, absolutely. And that is in fact one of the huge factors, is that if you have APIs that are well documented, that are easy to understand, that follow open API spec standards, your clients are going to come to you less and less as support for those APIs, right? And they'll be able to self-service your APIs and consume your APIs for whatever scenario that that whatever service they're providing. So in a sense, we can think of it as transformative value that we're providing to our clients, because now they're able to do things better, faster, and cheaper.
Yeah,
absolutely. Very good.
I just heard you mention, Rajiv, open API standards, right? So let's just take a second. Are there multiple standards, or is open API standard is the standard?
Yes, there's the Open API spec OAS, which I believe is at OAS version 3.0 right now. Okay. That is by far the most popular spec that we follow in the API practice. Yes, that's sort of our core standard.
Thank you.
So all of us have in some form or fashion dealt with different pricing models in our day-to-day life, right? Where either you pay by usage, or you buy a product which is freemium, You get, let's say, 200 megabytes of storage for free, and anything beyond that you've got to pay for. Or you have subscription-based pricing model where you buy 2 terabytes of storage, or if you buy streaming data through APIs for, let's say, 1,000 ticks on the stock market, right? That's what Thomson Reuters does. That's a subscription-based model. The upsell model is a very interesting model that I haven't seen a lot of applications for, but Salesforce uses it. Salesforce has product levels, and you don't get a certain level of functionality unless you buy APIs. When you buy APIs, you unlock that premium functionality with Salesforce, and therefore they're upselling you into a higher tier of that product, and it's APIs that drive that sort of sale of the higher tier of the product. And then there's enterprise pricing. If you're a company with multiple products, and if you have clients buying multiple products, clients want to do one deal with you with a simple pricing plan. So you need to be able to assemble enterprise pricing. You need to be able to do bundled pricing that's simple for your clients to understand, to perceive value in, and be invoiced for. Imagine, I mean, if my family has 3 cell phones, all with the same provider, let's say Verizon, and I get 3 different bills for 3 different pricing plans versus one consolidated bill for my entire family. This is that sort of an experience applied to the enterprise model.
Sounds good.
Was there a question there, Pankaj?
No.
Okay. So I'm going to speed up here, just being mindful of time. I'm actually going to hit a couple of these slides to sort of give you a perspective. A subscription-based pricing model, what do clients see? Clients see simplicity, predictability, that they know, okay, at this much usage, they're going to pay this much. At a higher level of usage, 100,000 more new accounts that are created, they're going to pay Y dollars more. It also scales for them because they're able to build that into their financial forecasting models. So here's a sample pricing approach. This is sort of a very sneak preview into the approach that we use within FIS for the 100+ products that we price. We define archetypes for our product APIs. And in defining those archetypes, we consider 4 top objectives. We say, is this particular product set of APIs targeting client retention or client acquisition or cost savings or incremental revenue? Or if it's a combination of all of those, which is typically always the case, then what is sort of the prioritization of these business objectives? Create a scorecard of those business objectives and how they weigh one against the other, right? And then we have a formula that slots that particular set of product APIs into an archetype. An archetype, and I have some examples here below, which I'll just quickly walk through. Then you also look at the other side of the coin to say, what are our pricing models that we espouse? So one pricing model is where you get APIs included as part of your product subscription, or you pay for APIs by use. If you use 100,000, if you make 100,000 transactions, you're going to pay for 100,000. If you for every additional transaction, you're going to pay X dollars more, right? So here is an example within FIS, within our wealth trust accounting system APIs. The APIs that we have put out there are fairly foundational APIs that expose the same functionality that the wealth trust accounting system UI exposes. So APIs are priced within, or I should say APIs are priced for free if you already have that trust accounting system. Whereas when you look at a banking core, where a bank may create 150 new checking accounts a month, in that case, we want to price it based on the additional value that the bank is able to derive based on the new accounts that they are creating every month, right? So then it would become subscription, it would become pay-per-use sort of pricing with tiers in there to say, for every 100,000 new accounts, this is how much more you're going to pay.
Yeah, Rajiv, Philip is asking at this point, this is not related to the pricing thing, but he asked, so I am asking you is, in the pricing model, we didn't talk about public and private APIs concept a little bit, I think. So Philip is asking, is this applicable pricing model only to public APIs, or if it's a private internal, you have to still think about this?
That's actually a very good question. That's an excellent question, and that is definitely a good candidate for a hour-long webinar on its own.
Okay.
Here's why. And I'll just briefly touch upon it. Public APIs definitely are a different set of pricing concerns than internal APIs. Let's say you're a company with 5 different business units, right? Mm-hmm. And every business unit has its own P&L. And if a product from a different business unit consumes your APIs as part of their own product, they don't get a free ride, right? They have to do a revenue share back into your P&L. Yeah. So you definitely want to consider internal pricing for those internal rev share sort of scenarios, and the drivers and models that you use for internal pricing in that case are typically very different than the public pricing model. So absolutely, a very valid question and a very valid concern. It really comes down to the rev share handshake that the 2 business units within your company perceive. I can tell you at FIS, even though we're such a large company, we consider ourselves as one of the largest fintechs in the world, we are driving more and more towards a centralized P&L, because having multiple P&L creates competition between the different business units that impedes our client experience, right? So we're trying to move more and more towards there's one P&L that belongs to the CEO, and we all have to think about our pricing as going against that P&L, that one single P&L versus the vertical P&Ls across the BUs.
Sounds good.
This also happens to be a topic where I've spent a lot of time with my legal team. And anytime we think about legal language and terms and conditions, it tends to get boring. But I've quickly realized that this is actually a very interesting and exciting topic. What this matrix shows you is, as you put your APIs out there, think about how are your clients going to consume your APIs, and if they consume your APIs and let's say if they patent a product that consumes your APIs, how will you get bound to within their patent? So make sure you think about terms and conditions that exclude you from their patent or from whatever licensing conditions they're putting out in the market. Because if you want to be excluded, or if you want to be included and have a rev share in there, as well as have some sort of participation in there, put those terms and conditions in as part of your go-to-market of your product APIs. Think about those, because if you do not, you will most likely end up in some serious legal quandary. Right? Yeah. Another one is version compatibility. You go from version 1 of an API to version 2 to version 3. Pretty soon you get to version 3 and you say, you know what, we're not going to support version 1 anymore. Mm-hmm. Fantastic. You need to think about that ahead of time versus as an afterthought. Otherwise, your clients will expect you to be always backwards compatible, and version 4 will become anchored down. Your version 1 will become a drag anchor for your version 4, because now you have to continuously maintain backward compatibility. So think about that upfront. Wire that into your legal agreement with your clients. Think about how third parties are consuming your APIs. If you've got a bank, or if you've got a client, let's say in the health industry, and that client is working with system integrators or third parties, and those third parties are accessing your APIs. Do you really want those third parties to be able to look at your APIs, to play with your APIs? Does that raise any IP concerns? Think about all those aspects and wire those concerns and protections within your legal agreement, right? And SLAs, absolutely. All clients will demand SLAs. So think about this.
So, Rajiv, one question that popped into my mind while you were talking about is like, so I'm in a company, I have a product which I have licensed to my clients, right? I didn't have API today, right? Product is already licensed. And now as an organization, I came up with the API as a product, or I have published my APIs. So in that situation, do the organizations write a separate licensing agreement for APIs or the product? Because when the product was licensed, there was no API. So people within the organization probably didn't even think about it, right?
Right.
So that licensing agreement is already done, taken care of, and whatever the thing. And now API came up. So can you a little bit touch about it? I'm just for my own.
No, that's actually a very common scenario. That's the majority scenario, I would say.
Yeah.
And so what I can tell you that what I've seen as a common pattern is our addendums to the master services agreement, to the MSA for the product.
Sure.
Right. And so we do an addendum for Code Connect, which is our brand for APIs. We do a Code Connect addendum. So every time a client buys a new set of APIs from us, we go back and modify that addendum with the pricing, with the SLAs, with the terms and conditions.
Okay.
And so that's typically how we treat it. Sometimes the clients may come back around to you and say, hey, we need to renegotiate the entire MSA because APIs have become a central core part of their consumption strategy, right? So you need to be open.
Good. Sounds good. Thank you.
So this is another area that's important for product managers to consider. You put APIs out there in the market, your clients start consuming these APIs, and they consume more and more of your APIs from different products. They want to know, how are your APIs going to evolve? What is going to be the evolutionary path of the functionality that is exposed through your APIs? Remember, this is not a technical question as much as it is a functional question, right? This is the same as if you buy, let's say, if your client buys a banking or a money movement product from you, or an e-commerce product from you, your client will say, when will I have the capability to do this extra feature? When will I have the ability to, let's say, do an address check in real time or a fraud check in real time, right? That's the kind of functionality you need to be able to roadmap out on your product roadmap to say, this is when it's going to be available. This is the roadmap. And by the way, this is the entire enterprise roadmap for all the products that you have with our company.
Yeah, makes
sense. Right? So this is the enterprise roadmap, but then drill in product by product and say, within a particular product, these are the functional enhancements in this, these are the quarters when we are planning. We're saying we're planning, we're not committing yet, but at some stage we're going to commit to these products, to these features, right? So be transparent. Unless you have a reason not to be transparent, I would always be transparent with the client. That's just what business expects in this day and age.
So a question come on this part is like, so API product manager and the product manager, right? So product with the same feature, let's say fraud detection you mentioned just now, right? So there is a UI based product manager who is designing the whole interface, how the fraud detection and everything happens. Is the assumption any new feature that the organization puts is also part of the API, or those are two separate discussions?
I would say that really goes back to your vision and strategy for the product. If your vision and strategy for your product is to say that we're going to achieve, let's say you have a product which has a consumer-facing set of functionality, and a administrator set of functionality, you would say for consumer functionality, everything that goes on the UI will also go out onto the API. Then by default, that becomes the path. And you always ask the question, because the API product manager and the product manager are joined at the hip, they're continuously having this discussion, right? They're one. They're literally working as one. right? Whereas for the administrative UI, you may say, you know what, we can afford a phase lag, or let's see what the demand's like, and then we'll figure it out.
Sounds
So
good.
we can segment it that way.
Yeah. So in an organization, it is okay to have product roadmap, API roadmap, but if the organization is really mature, means you just have one product roadmap. Because from your client perspective, they're going to get confused, right? Like how many product roadmap I have to talk, I have to talk to Rajiv, I have to talk to a product manager of some other FIS product manager things. So
that's actually a very good point. That's a very good point. And in fact, that's something we do with our more mature products, is we have one product roadmap that shows all of it on one slide, in one document.
Makes sense.
For
Sounds
certain
good.
products where we have a differentiating set of functionalities with the APIs, we don't necessarily do that, but for explicit reasons. And I think at some point they will all become one roadmap.
Sounds good.
Yeah. So the question was asked earlier about a maturity model.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to spend too much time and do this in detail, but the point here is that as you as a company put out APIs in the market, make sure you know how mature these APIs are. Version 1 may be an initial level of maturity or a level 0 maturity. Why is it level 0 maturity? Technically, what are the reasons? Business functionality wise, what are the reasons, right? That it's level 0. What is it going to take technically and functionally take you to level 1? And on your roadmap, when is that going to happen? And then how are you going to further enhance and mature your APIs? What is going to go technically and functionally into that highest level of maturity? So establish those criteria, those technical and functional criteria, and those evaluation standards. Literally have an Excel spreadsheet where you can check boxes and you can get a recommended maturity level spit out the other end based on matrix of criteria.
So in the industry, is there a standard where we say, okay, I am level 1 matured, so that's why my pricing is XYZ, or I am level 0, so my pricing is little less? Yes, because client is comparing API pricing, right? So they might be saying, okay, I'm okay to pay you more a little bit if you are level 2 mature. Is there that concept?
That's actually a very, very good question. I'll give you an example. At FIS, there are some products where we needed to get API functionality onto our API gateway, into the same catalog, which has APIs from all other products. And in order to get to market faster with those APIs, we took the legacy, sorry, some people will laugh when I say this. We took our legacy SOAP APIs and we did some stuff to it, wrappered them, and exposed those endpoints as APIs on our API gateway in the same catalog. And we said, here are these level 0 initial APIs. We're not going to charge for these. We know that, that they get you the functionality, but in a way they don't really get you there. So these are level 0, free of cost, included as your product. But at the same time, have a second part of the discussion to say, over the next 6 months, we're going to create REST-enabled open API spec compliant APIs, so on and so forth, with such and such functionality and use cases that you can exercise in one API call versus 5 API calls to move money from one account to the other. We're going to give you one API call that'll move money without having to worry about the underlying semantics and details of moving money.
That sounds good. Good.
Right.
Okay. I just wanted to do time check as well. You have a couple of more minutes. Yeah.
So last but not the least, the developer experience. I'm so passionate about the developer experience. And don't get me wrong, it's not just about the developer experience. This is about the experience. I like to call it the business experience. If your client business person or your client developer or your client product manager is looking for APIs, wants to play with your APIs, then get serious and buy these APIs, what is that life cycle? What is that journey they go through? Right? In experiencing your APIs. If I had my way, I would rename this to be business experience, which encompasses developer experience as well. So I'm going to skip this question for the sake of time, but the question would have been, how important is developer experience to the API publisher? Is it very important? Is it somewhat important? Um, Again, when I've talked to a lot of different companies, when I've been in different discussions, majority of folks have landed now at saying that this is very important. The developer experience is very important because unless the developers are able to quickly find, consume, and go to production with those APIs, go live with those APIs, it's a problem. So that DX is an important aspect in that journey. Where the business experience comes in is to be able to articulate what use cases are your APIs able to fulfill. Are you able to move money? I keep using the same example. Are you able to do a fraud check, run a fraud check use case that runs 3 different kinds of fraud checks? Does an address check, does a driver's license check, does a some sort of other financial or individual fraud check under the covers, right? So it's that experience that I think is extremely important that we as API product managers need to be championing.
That's good.
So in this journey, as we get started, as the clients start looking for APIs, they search for APIs, you need to have a clean cut, one-stop shop catalog with proper filters so clients can find your product APIs. So this needs to be a functional catalog, not a technical catalog. Push notifications is push notifications, not Kafka-based such and such notifications, right?
Yeah.
To be able to discover the features. So if you are inside of a particular API, what features does it provide? Is it in simulation? Is there a sandbox? Is it live or is it coming up? What functionality? What all can I do with it? What sort of data does it expose, right? I want to get a high level understanding of the data model, of the data entities that are exposed. And then pricing. We talked about pricing ad nauseum, right? So all of these things, including the sandbox. Do I have a sandbox that I can put out there for my clients that they can immediately play with even before they decide to buy the APIs and get confidence that these APIs will work for them, right? And last but not the least, use cases. Do the APIs support the use cases that I need to now be able to fulfill as a client, right? Look at it from the client perspective. All of this together becomes the client experience, that business experience.
Sounds good. Perfect. Good.
And so I'll leave you with a productization checklist. Doesn't have everything on there, but think about these things. Think about market analysis, what the value is, pricing, roadmap, business experience, developer experience, terms and conditions, support arm, implementation arm, professional services, a partner program, an analyst network. Come up with your own productization checklist, and then say which ones are your top 10 for the product that is on your radar.
Okay.
Back to you, Pankaj.
Okay. Thanks, Rajiv, for the great presentation. At this point, I encourage everyone to continue typing your questions in the chat box, and if we have time towards the end, we'll get to them, or otherwise later on we'll touch base with you.
I'm happy to stay on for a few more minutes.
Yes, thank you. And one other thing I definitely want to encourage our audience is, as you can tell from the slides, like the API as a product is such a vast concept. Today, we kind of just focused on pricing, but there are so many things. So if you are interested in any specific topic in API, so just let us know, so we can schedule a follow-up conversation with Rajiv. So being said that, so let me introduce Synerzip to you, take this opportunity to introduce Synerzip to you. Basically, Synerzip, we work as your trusted agile software partner, right? So you get your own team of dedicated software professionals. Most of our clients, they come to us mainly for one of the following reasons, right? They need to accelerate their product roadmap, and we can do that by scaling their engineering teams, right? Sometimes organization, I mean, they have some technology skills gap which they want to fill quickly. Maybe it's in AI or DevOps, QA automation, or big data and analytics, for example. And also other reason is the clients come to Synergip is basically we can do more with less, right? So we can do, let's say suppose you're an organization, you don't have API, now you want to develop this productization. So you may use Synergip help because we do work with many clients developing APIs. So the cost savings, right? So that's the key concept. Go to the next slide. So these kind of list over 15 years, we've been working over 150 clients, right? Most of our clients are VC and PE-backed software companies. We are in a growth phase. That's our typical market segment. We do have, however, some large enterprise customers. I'm sure you all have heard about Google, Dell, companies like that. But our sweet spot is really venture and PE-backed software companies which are in accelerated growth. That's where we help. We work with all cutting-edge technologies. Next slide, please. So this is our contact, Rajiv's contact and my contact. So as I said, like if you have any specific questions or any specific point you want to discuss, have a separate webinar like a pricing or security or whatnot, do provide us feedback. Our presentation is recorded. You should get a recording in a mail or day or two. I encourage every one of you to attend our next webinar, which is going to be one of my very good friend, Ron Lichty. He's a well-known speaker in the Agile world. So his topic is going to be critical Agile practices. We've been doing Agile for like last 15 years. But what is he going to focus mostly? What are the nuances? What he has learned, and then he would like to share with us. So it will be a great presentation. It's on August 13th. So I encourage each one of you to sign up and register. I think that's so. Unfortunately, I had so many questions coming, but unfortunately, we are running out of time. So we'll just have to, I'll just get back to all the people who have asked questions separately. So I think with that, I think Rajiv, I really want to thank you for a great presentation. And I think our audience probably benefit some of it. And have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rajiv. Bye. Bye, everyone.